I was sitting in the doctor's waiting room when my phone rang. It was Angela, my only daughter. Her voice sounded strange, almost cold. "Mom, we're leaving for Europe tomorrow. I already sold your beach house and your car. We needed the money. Bye." And she just hung up. No explanation. 50 years I raised her, sacrificed everything for her, and she discarded me like I was trash. But I took a deep breath and smiled, because there was something my dear daughter didn't know. 3 days before my husband Robert died, he handed me an envelope. "Keep this in your dresser," he said. "If something happens to me, open it when you're ready." I forgot about it in my grief. But that envelope? It held secrets that would turn her perfect plan into her worst nightmare. My name is Antonia. I'm 71 years old, and this is the story of how betrayal met justice. Subscribe to Julia's Stories and comment where you're watching from, because what comes next will remind you that underestimating someone can be the biggest mistake of your life. I had become a widow just 6 months earlier. Robert, my husband of 45 years, died of a heart attack while we were having breakfast together, like we did every morning. That morning, he had served me coffee with milk and toast. As always, he had kissed my forehead and said, "Good morning, my love." Those were his last words. Since then, Angela had been more present in my life. Or so I thought. She came to visit 3 times a week. She helped me with the funeral paperwork, accompanied me to the market. She even suggested I go to the doctor for a checkup. "Mom, now that you're alone, you need to take better care of yourself," she said with a smile that I mistook for love, but now I understand was convenience. The beach house had been our refuge for years. Robert and I bought it when Angela was 15, with so much effort and sacrifice. Every summer we went there, creating memories, celebrating birthdays and Christmas. Angela brought her friends, later her husband Eric. I cooked for everyone, cleaned, did laundry. It was our family tradition. I never thought she would see it as nothing more than money. And the car, that old Opel that Robert cared for like his own son. He washed it every Sunday, changed the oil religiously, always parked it in the same corner under the shade of a tree. Angela knew what that car meant to me. It was the last thing I had left of him. His scent still clung to the seats. When she hung up, I was still sitting on that uncomfortable green plastic chair, surrounded by other sick people. And for the first time in months, I didn't cry. Something strange happened inside me. A calmness I hadn't felt since Robert's death washed over me, because in that moment I remembered something I had completely forgotten. 3 days before his death, Robert had given me an envelope. "Antonia, keep this in your dresser. If something happens to me, open it after a while, but only when you feel ready." I had put it away without much thought. After the funeral, with so much pain and so many formalities, I had simply forgotten about it. But there it was, waiting for me at home. The nurse called me into the examination room. The doctor examined me, told me I was in good health for my age, that I just needed more rest and better nutrition. I nodded and smiled, but my thoughts were elsewhere. I was thinking about that envelope, about the coldness in Angela's voice, about how Eric was probably behind all of this. He had never liked me, always saw me as a burden. I left the clinic and walked slowly to the bus stop. I no longer had a car, according to Angela. But as I waited, I couldn't help but smile. There was something poetic about it. My daughter thought she had left me with nothing, but what she didn't know was that Robert, my dear Robert, had always been a man who planned ahead. The bus came, and I sat by the window. I watched the city pass by, the houses, the shops, the people running back and forth, all with their own tragedies, their own secrets. I had mine too, and I was about to discover them. When I got home, I went straight to my bedroom. I opened the dresser, and there was the envelope, exactly where I had left it. My hands trembled slightly as I picked it up. I could feel there were several documents inside. Robert had written my name on the front in his careful handwriting. I sat on the bed we had shared for so many years and took a deep breath. Outside, it was getting dark, and the house was filling with those familiar shadows that no longer frightened me. I opened the envelope slowly, as if unwrapping a birthday present. What I found inside took my breath away. They were legal documents, property deeds, bank certificates, and a handwritten letter from Robert. My eyes filled with tears as I read his familiar handwriting. "My dear Antonia, if you're reading this, it means I'm no longer with you. Forgive me for not telling you everything while I was still alive, but I wanted to protect you from worry. All these years, I've been investing our savings in real estate and businesses. We don't just have the beach house, we have 6 other properties, including the building where Angela lives with Eric. We also have shares in 3 companies that are worth more than you can imagine. You're rich, my love. You've always been rich, but now you are on paper too. My hands shook as I went through the documents. There were deeds for houses in different neighborhoods, an apartment downtown, a small hotel on the coast, and indeed, the 20-story building where my daughter lived. Robert had been the silent owner for the last 10 years, but he had put everything under the name of a company I didn't know existed. And according to the papers, I was the sole heir of that company. There were also bank statements from accounts I never knew existed, numbers that seemed unreal. Robert had been a bus driver for 40 years, but apparently also a very clever investor. Every euro we saved, every sacrifice we made, he had quietly multiplied, and I never knew anything about it. In the letter, Robert explained that he had kept everything secret because he didn't want me to worry about money, nor did he want Angela to know about our true financial situation. You know our daughter, Antonia. If she knew we had this much money, her attitude would change. I want her to love us for who we are, not for what we have. What irony! Our daughter had abandoned us because she thought we had nothing, when in reality we had everything. That night I couldn't sleep. I walked through the house, touching the old furniture, the ornaments that Angela had always criticized as old-fashioned. I looked at the family photos on the wall, especially the one where she was 5 years old, laughing on Robert's lap. Where had that sweet child gone? When had she become so cold, so calculating? The next day, very early, the phone rang. It was Angela again. Her voice sounded different, softer, but I had already learned to distrust these tone changes. Mom, how are you? I wanted to tell you that we've already transferred the money for the house and the car. We've deposited your share into your account. It's not much, but it'll last you a few months while you look for something smaller. My share? I asked with a calm voice. Yes, Mom. Obviously, we didn't want to leave you penniless. We gave you 30%. That's fair, right? We needed the money for the investment in Europe. Eric has an incredible business opportunity there. 30% of my own things. How generous. I understand, daughter. And when are you leaving? This afternoon. We already have our bags packed. We'll be gone for at least 6 months. Maybe longer if the business goes well. But don't worry, Mom. When we come back, we'll help you find a small apartment. Something suitable for your needs. Suitable for my needs. As if she knew what my needs were. All right, Angela. Have a good trip. Oh, Mom, I knew you'd understand. You've always been so understanding. We love you very much. And she hung up. I stood there with the phone in my hand, and for the first time in months, I laughed. I laughed like I hadn't since Robert's death. The situation was so absurd it was comical. My daughter had stolen from me, thrown me out of my own house, treated me with unbearable condescension, and all to finance a European adventure that would probably be a disaster. But what bothered me most wasn't the money. It was the ease with which she had erased me from her life. Years of my life that I had dedicated to her, full of sacrifices, unconditional love, and she had eliminated me from her life with a 2-minute phone call. That hurt. I checked my online bank account. Indeed, they had deposited an amount that probably seemed generous to them, but to me it was an insult. They had sold the beach house well below its value, probably because they needed money quickly, and they had practically given away Robert's car. That afternoon, I watched from my window as Angela and Eric loaded suitcases into a taxi. He carried 2 huge suitcases. She carried a very expensive-looking travel bag. I saw them laugh, kiss each other, make plans. They looked like 2 teenagers excited about an adventure. They never turned toward my window, never said goodbye. When the taxi drove away, I sat in the kitchen with a cup of tea and Robert's documents spread out on the table. I had to make decisions. I could call a lawyer, reclaim my properties, take back everything they had taken from me. But something told me there was a better way to handle this, a more educational way. I called Jonathan, the lawyer who had handled Robert's affairs. Jonathan, I said when he answered, I need your help with something very important and very confidential. Mrs. Antonia, of course. What do you need? I need you to verify some documents for me. Their deeds, bank statements, certificates. I want to make sure they're all legitimate and that I'm really the owner of everything they say I am. Send them over. I'll review them immediately. I scanned all the documents and sent them to Jonathan's email. Then I waited. 2 hours later, He called back. Mrs. Antonia, everything is in order. The documents are legitimate. You are the rightful owner of all these properties. You're quite wealthy. I know what I have, Jonathan. What I need to know is what I can do legally. Jonathan explained that everything was in order, that the documents were legitimate, that I was the rightful owner of all these properties. He also confirmed something I had already suspected. The sale of the beach house had been illegal because Angela had no right to sell it. We can get the house back immediately, Mrs. Antonia, and we can also take legal action against your daughter for fraud. No, Jonathan, I don't want to take legal action. I want to do this differently. I want everything to remain secret for now. Can you help me? Jonathan looked at me curiously but nodded. Of course. You're my client. What do you need? I need you to discreetly recover the beach house, to do what's necessary to reverse this fraudulent sale. And I need you to help me take actual control of all my properties, especially the building where my daughter lives. I understand. This will be a process that will take a few weeks, but it's quite doable. Perfect. And Jonathan, I need no one to know that I'm behind this, at least not yet. When I left Jonathan's office, I felt like I was waking up from a very long dream. I walked through the downtown streets, watching people, buildings, life taking its normal course. But for me, everything had changed. I had a plan. The following weeks were the strangest of my life. Officially, I was a poor widow, abandoned by her daughter. But secretly, I was a wealthy woman quietly orchestrating the recovery of her assets. Jonathan worked efficiently, and every few days he would call me with updates on the progress of the legal formalities. I decided to stay in my house for the time being. It belonged to me, after all, even though Angela probably expected me to move into a furnished room. Every morning I woke up, had breakfast at the same table where Robert and I had spent so many years, and then went for a walk around the neighborhood. The neighbors greeted me with that mixture of pity and curiosity they reserve for freshly widowed women. Elka, my longtime neighbor, approached me one afternoon while I was watering the plants in front of the house. Antonia, dear, is it true that Angela went to Europe and left you alone? Yes, Elka. She went with Eric. They have business plans there. And how will you manage, child? We all know Robert didn't leave much money behind. If you only knew, I thought. Don't worry, Elka. I'll be fine. Do you need anything? I can bring you food, help you with shopping? You're very kind, but I'm really fine. I was so confused by grief that I signed without reading. How naive I had been. I understand, Jonathan. Is there a way to get it back? We can try, but it will be more complicated. We would need to prove that you signed the power of attorney under deception or coercion. Let's do it. I want to get back everything she took from me. In the following weeks, I developed a strange routine. In the mornings, I was the poor widow. Everyone knew. I went shopping, talked to neighbors, maintained the appearance. But in the afternoons, I became a businesswoman. I studied Robert's documents, talked to Jonathan, planned my next move. I learned things about finance I never thought I would need. I discovered that Robert had been much smarter than I thought. Each of his investments had been carefully calculated. The building where Angela lived, for example, was not only profitable through rent, but was also in a rapidly appreciating area. I also discovered that Eric, Angela's husband, had debts. Many debts. He had taken out loans and used the apartment where they lived as collateral, not knowing he wasn't the actual owner. When the banks found out, he would have serious problems. Jonathan called me on a Friday with important news. Mrs. Antonia, we've completed all the formalities. You now have full control over all your properties. I've also recovered Robert's car. The buyer turned out to be an acquaintance of mine, and when I explained the situation to him, he agreed to return it for a small compensation. Excellent work, Jonathan. Now I need your help with one more thing. I want you to send my daughter a letter. What kind of letter? An eviction notice. There was silence on the other end of the line. Mrs. Antonia, are you sure you want to do this? After all, she's your daughter. Jonathan, my daughter threw me out of my own house with a 2-minute phone call. She sold my things without asking me. She treated me like I was trash. Now she's going to learn that actions have consequences. I understand. I just wanted to make sure you've considered all the implications. I've considered them, Jonathan. All of them. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stayed awake imagining Angela's face when she read the letter. The initial confusion, then the disbelief, then the panic. She would probably think it was a mistake, that someone was trying to scam her. But when she called to verify, she would find out that everything was completely legal. The next day, as if she had been waiting for my call, The phone rang at 8 in the morning. It was Angela, and her voice sounded desperate. Mom, I need to talk to you urgently. Good morning, daughter. How was Europe? Mom, I don't have time for that now. I received a very strange letter yesterday. It says I have to vacate my apartment in 30 days. This must be a mistake. Do you know anything about it? An eviction notice. How strange. From whom? From a company I've never heard of. It's called, wait, let me find the letter. Robert Investments, Inc. Do you know this company? Robert had used his own name for the company. How poetic. No, daughter, I've never heard that name. Are you sure the letter is real? That's what I'm trying to find out. Mom, I need your help. I don't know what to do. Eric left me in Europe, ran off with another woman, and now I come back to this. I don't understand what's happening. There it was, the confirmation. Eric had abandoned her, probably when the money ran out, or when he realized the legal problems at home were more serious than he thought. Poor Angela. She had sacrificed her family for a man who was worthless. I'm very sorry, daughter. Where are you now? I'm in the apartment, but I don't know for how long. Mom, can I come visit you? I need to talk to someone. I have no one else. The irony was perfect. Now that she had lost the man she had left me for, she remembered she had a mother. Of course, daughter. Come whenever you want. I'm coming right now. I hung up and looked at myself in the mirror. I had to be perfect for this performance. I put on my most conservative gray dress, pulled my hair into a simple bun, and practiced my expression of a concerned but resigned mother. When Angela arrived, she would see exactly what she expected. A poor, vulnerable widow who had been abandoned by her own daughter. Angela arrived an hour later. When I opened the door, I was surprised at how bad she looked. She had lost weight, had deep dark circles under her eyes, and her expensive clothes looked wrinkled and neglected. Her eyes were red from crying. Mom, she said, and for a moment I thought she was going to hug me, but she stopped as if suddenly remembering how things had ended between us. Come in, daughter. Would you like some coffee? Yes, please.
We sat in the kitchen, the same place where we had shared so many conversations over the years. I served her coffee and waited. She had to speak first. Mom, I made a terrible mistake. Eric wasn't who I thought he was. He used me, used the money, and when there was nothing left, he abandoned me. And now this eviction thing. I don't know what to do. I let the silence settle. I wanted her to feel the weight of her words. I'm sorry you're going through this, daughter.
We sat in the kitchen, the same place where we had shared so many conversations over the years. I served her coffee and waited. She had to speak first. Mom, I made a terrible mistake. Eric wasn't who I thought he was. He used me, used the money, and when there was nothing left, he abandoned me. And now this eviction thing. I don't know what to do. I let the silence settle. I wanted her to feel the weight of her words. I'm sorry you're going through this, daughter. Angela began to cry. Not the manipulative tears I had seen before, but genuine tears of someone who had hit rock bottom. Mom, I was horrible to you. I sold your things, threw you out of your own house, and all for a man who didn't deserve it. I don't know how you can even look at me. You're my daughter, Angela. That will never change. But after everything I did, we all make mistakes. The question is what we learn from them. She looked at me with hope in her eyes, as if she expected me to solve all her problems right there. Mom, I need help. I have nowhere to go. If they evict me, I'll be on the street. This was the moment I had been waiting for. The moment when she would realize what it felt like to be powerless, to depend on someone else's mercy. Have you talked to a lawyer about the letter? I don't have money for a lawyer, Mom. We spent all the money in Europe. Eric took what little was left when he went with that woman. And what are you going to do? I don't know. I thought maybe I could stay with you for a while, just until I find work and can get a small place to live. There it was, the question I had been waiting for. After throwing me out of my own house, after selling my things, after treating me like trash, now she wanted me to save her. She wanted the poor widow she had created to rescue her from the consequences of her own actions. Of course, daughter, this will always be your home. Angela looked at me surprised, as if she hadn't expected it to be so easy. Really, Mom, after everything that happened, you're my daughter, Angela. That will never change. She stood up and hugged me. This time, it was a desperate hug from someone drowning, clinging to the only thing they find. I hugged her back, but not with the unconditional love from before. Now there was calculation in my embrace. Strategy. Thank you, Mom. I promise you, I'll find work soon. I won't be a burden. Don't worry about that now. Rest, recover, and then we'll see what options you have. Angela went that afternoon to get some things from her apartment. I stayed in the kitchen thinking about how easy it had been. She had come to me exactly as I had planned, broken, desperate, without options, and the best part was that she suspected nothing. To her, I was still the poor abandoned mother who needed her pity. But this was only the first part of my plan. Letting her live with me would give me the perfect opportunity for the next phase. I would let her settle in, let her feel safe, let her believe she had found refuge in my house. And then, when she least expected it, I would show her the difference between poverty by choice and poverty by consequence. That night, I called Jonathan. Jonathan, I need you to do one more thing for me. Tell me, Mrs. Antonia, I want you to investigate Eric's debts. I want to know exactly how much he owes to whom and what legal options I have to separate them from my daughter. That will take time, but it's doable. Perfect. And Jonathan, I need you to keep this absolutely secret. No one can know I'm behind this investigation. Of course, Mrs. Antonia. May I ask what your ultimate plan is? My plan, Jonathan, is very simple. I'm going to save my daughter. But first she needs to understand what it really means to hit rock bottom. Only then will she be ready to appreciate what she has. The following weeks were a delicate dance. Angela lived with me looking for work during the day, crying at night. I played the role of the supportive mother, cooking for her, comforting her, listening to her laments about Eric and the disaster her life had become. One afternoon, while we were having tea in the living room, Angela said something that surprised me. "Mom, I need to ask you something. When I sold the beach house, did you ever go see it?" "No, daughter. Why would I? I don't know. I thought maybe you'd want to say goodbye or something." "It's just a house, Angela. But it was our house. All those memories. Memories don't live in houses. They live in here." I touched my chest. "No one can take them from me." Angela began to cry again. "How can you be so strong? How can you forgive me after everything I did?" "I haven't said I forgive you, daughter. I said you're my daughter, and that will never change. Forgiveness is something different. It's earned." She looked at me with surprise. It was the first time I had been even slightly harsh with her since she returned. "You're right. I don't deserve your forgiveness. I just hope that one day I can earn it." That same week, Jonathan called with news. "Mrs. Antonia, we have a problem. Or rather, Angela has a problem." "What happened?" "Eric's debts are worse than we thought. He used Angela's identity to take out several loans. Technically, she's responsible for debts she doesn't even know exist." "How much are we talking about?" "About 200,000 euros. I was silent for a moment, processing the information. "Can we separate her from those debts?" "We can try. We have evidence that it was identity fraud. I've been investigating the case for the last few weeks. We have enough proof to show she was a victim. But who paid for this investigation? I don't have money for that." Jonathan looked at me. It was my moment. "Angela, there's something I need to tell you." "What, Mom?" I took a deep breath. After weeks of acting, I was finally going to reveal the truth. "Your father left me more than you knew. Much more." "What do you mean?" "Jonathan, show her the other documents." Jonathan pulled out a second folder and handed it to Angela. This time it was the property deeds, the bank statements, the investment certificates, the entire fortune that Robert had secretly built. Angela read silently for several minutes. Her face went through a whole range of emotions: confusion, disbelief, shock, and finally understanding. "Mom, it says here that you own the building where I lived." "Yes, and that you have other properties, bank accounts, investments." "Yes, that means when I sold the beach house, it was your house and the sale was fraudulent." "I've already gotten it back." Angela stared at the papers, trying to process the information. "How long have you known this?" "Since the day you called me from the doctor's office." "You knew all this when I came back from Europe asking for help?" "Yes." "You knew you could solve all my problems when you watched me cry every night?" "Yes." There was a long, tense silence. Angela closed the folders and looked me directly in the eyes. "Why, Mom? Why did you let me suffer when you could have helped me?" That was the question I had been waiting for weeks. "Because you needed to learn something that you couldn't learn any other way." "What?" "You needed to learn the value of the things you had lost. The value of family, respect, responsibility. When you abandoned me, you didn't just take money from me. You took dignity, love, trust." Angela began to cry, but these weren't tears of self-pity like the ones she had shed these weeks. They were tears of deep understanding. I abandoned you when you needed me most. Yes, I treated you like you were trash. Yes, and you still saved me. Yes, but not in the way you expected. I didn't save you by giving you money so you could keep making the same mistakes. I saved you by letting you hit rock bottom so you could learn to save yourself. Jonathan discreetly intervened. Miss Angela, your mother paid all the legal costs to free you from Eric's debts. She also recovered all the properties that were fraudulently sold. You're completely free of legal problems. Angela looked at me with tears streaming down her face. Mom, I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything. You just have to learn. Learn what? That people aren't ATMs. That love isn't measured in euros. That family is something you build every day, not something you use when it's convenient. Angela stood up, and this time when she hugged me, it was different. It wasn't the desperate hug of someone drowning. It was the hug of someone who had finally understood. I promise you, Mom, I'm going to be a better person. I'm going to earn your forgiveness. I know you will, daughter, and I'll be here to help you. But this time, you're going to do it on your own merit, not because I solve your problems for you. The next few months were a period of transformation for both of us. Angela found a job at a small accounting firm. It wasn't glamorous, and the pay was modest, but she worked hard. Every night she came home exhausted, but with a satisfaction I had never seen in her before. She was earning her own money, paying her own way, learning what it meant to be independent. One Saturday morning she came into the kitchen where I was having coffee and said, Mom, I want to pay you rent. I looked at her over my cup. Rent? Yes. I'm living in your house, eating your food. It's not right that I don't contribute. Angela, you don't have to. I want to, Mom. Please, let me do this. I saw the determination in her eyes and understood this was important to her. It wasn't about the money. It was about dignity, about taking responsibility. All right, we'll figure out a fair amount. She smiled, and for the first time in months, I saw a glimpse of genuine happiness in her face. Not the superficial excitement she had when she was with Eric, but something deeper, more authentic. A few weeks later, Jonathan called with more news. Mrs. Antonia, the beach house situation is completely resolved. The fraudulent sale has been reversed, and the property is back in your name. I've also taken care of the car. Everything is as it should be. Thank you, Jonathan. Send me the final invoice for your services. Actually, Mrs. Antonia, there's something else. I found something interesting while investigating the beach house sale. What did you find? The buyers, the couple who purchased the house from Angela, they were actually quite decent people. They were devastated when they found out the sale was fraudulent. They lost their deposit and had to find another place. I did some research and they have a touching story. The husband is a veteran with PTSD, and they were looking for a quiet place by the sea for his recovery. I was quiet for a moment thinking, Jonathan, do you have their contact information? Yes, I do. Why? Send it to me. I want to talk to them. That afternoon, I called the couple. The wife answered, her voice cautious. Mrs. Harrison? My name is Antonia. I'm the owner of the beach house you tried to purchase. There was a pause. Oh, we're very sorry about what happened. We had no idea the sale was illegal. We would never, I know. That's why I'm calling. I want to offer you a deal. A deal? I'd like to rent the house to you. Long term, at a fair price. My husband built that house with the idea that it should be a place of healing and family. I think he would have wanted someone like your husband to benefit from it. I could hear her crying on the other end of the line. Mrs. Antonia, we can't afford much. We'll work something out. Come by my house tomorrow, we'll discuss the details. When I hung up, I felt Robert's presence stronger than I had in months. This was what he would have wanted. Not revenge, not punishment, but the house being used for good. That evening, Angela came home to find me looking at old photo albums. She sat next to me on the couch. Is that the beach house? She asked, pointing to a picture. Yes, your father and I on our first summer there. Mom, I need to tell you something. I went to see the house last week. I looked at her, surprised. You did. I needed to see it, to face what I had done. There were new people there, a couple. They seemed nice. They are. I'm renting it to them. Angela's eyes widened. You're renting our beach house? It's not our beach house anymore, Angela. It's a house, and houses are meant to shelter people, not to sit empty holding grudges. She was quiet for a moment. You're a better person than I'll ever be. No, I'm just a person who's lived long enough to understand what matters and what doesn't. Things, money, property, they come and go. But how we treat people, the legacy we leave, that's what lasts. Angela leaned her head on my shoulder, something she hadn't done since she was a little girl. I wish I had learned that earlier. You're learning it now, that's what matters. 3 months after Angela moved in with me, she came home one evening with a strange expression on her face. "Mom, I need to show you something." She handed me a bank statement. It showed a savings account in her name, with a modest but growing balance. No, I'm just a person who's lived long enough to understand what matters and what doesn't. Things, money, property, they come and go. But how we treat people, the legacy we leave, that's what lasts. Angela leaned her head on my shoulder, something she hadn't done since she was a little girl. I wish I had learned that earlier. You're learning it now. That's what matters. 3 months after Angela moved in with me, she came home one evening with a strange expression on her face. "Mom, I need to show you something." She handed me a bank statement. It showed a savings account in her name, with a modest but growing balance. That night, after Angela went to bed, I sat at the kitchen table with Robert's letter in front of me. I read it again. His words about wanting Angela to love us for who we were, not what we had. He had been so wise, so patient, and now, finally, his plan was working. Angela was learning to stand on her own, to value people over possessions, to understand that real wealth isn't measured in bank accounts. A few days later, Angela came to me with a proposal. "Mom, I've been thinking, the beach house. What about it? I know you're renting it to that couple, and I think that's wonderful. But I was thinking, what if we did something more? What if we turned it into a temporary shelter for women coming out of domestic violence situations? A place where they could stay while they rebuild their lives." I stared at my daughter, hardly believing what I was hearing. "You want to use the beach house to help others?" "Yes. I know how it feels to have your life fall apart, to have nowhere to go. If you hadn't taken me in, I don't know what would have happened to me. I want to do that for other women, and I thought maybe we could use some of the other properties too, create a network of safe houses." This was the daughter I had always hoped she would become. Not the spoiled, entitled woman who sold my house without a second thought, but someone who understood suffering and wanted to alleviate it in others. "That's a beautiful idea, Angela. Really? You'd consider it?" "More than consider it. Let's do it. We'll start with the beach house once the Harrisons' lease is up. We'll work with local organizations, set up proper support systems." Angela's face lit up with an excitement I hadn't seen since she was a child, discovering something wonderful. "Mom, there's something else I need to say." "What is it?" "I'm sorry. I know I've said it before, but I need to say it again. I'm sorry for selling the house, for taking the car, for treating you like you were worthless. I'm sorry for choosing Eric over you. I'm sorry for every moment of pain I caused you." I took her hands in mine. "I know you are, daughter, and I forgive you. Not because what you did was okay, but because you've shown me through your actions that you've learned from it. Forgiveness isn't about forgetting what happened. It's about choosing to move forward together, despite what happened." She cried then, real tears of relief and gratitude. And I held her, my daughter, finally finding her way back to herself. The following Sunday, we decided to visit the beach house together for the first time since I had reclaimed it. It was a beautiful morning, the kind Robert used to love, with clear skies and a gentle breeze coming off the ocean. As we drove, Angela was quiet, lost in thought. "Are you okay?" I asked. "I'm just thinking about all the times we came here as a family. Dad teaching me to swim, the barbecues on the deck, the Christmases we spent here. I took it all for granted. We often don't appreciate what we have until it's gone. But you got it back. You got everything back." "Not everything, Angela. I didn't get those years back. I didn't get the time your father and I could have enjoyed this place in his final years. Some things once lost are gone forever." She was quiet again, absorbing this truth. When we arrived, the house looked exactly the same. The Harrisons had taken good care of it. They had even added some potted plants, giving it a warm, lived-in feeling. We sat on the deck, looking out at the ocean. The waves crashed rhythmically against the shore, the sound that had soothed us for so many years. "Mom, do you remember what Dad used to say about this place? He said many things. He said it was his piece of heaven on earth. He said that whenever he was here, he felt like all was right with the world." I smiled, remembering. "No, Angela, you made a mistake, but the house is still here. Heaven isn't destroyed so easily. But I sold it. I turned his dream into a transaction, and I got it back. And now we're going to use it to help others. Your father would have loved that. He always said the best use of blessings is to bless others. Angela turned to me, tears in her eyes. How can you be so kind to me after everything? Because that's what mothers do. We love our children, even when they hurt us, even when they disappoint us, even when they need to learn hard lessons. We love them through it all. We sat there for a long time, mother and daughter, healing together in the place that had seen so many of our family's happiest moments. As the sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, Angela said, "Mom, I want to make a promise to you." "What kind of promise?" "I promise that from now on, I'll never take you for granted. I'll never value money over people. I'll never forget what really matters. And I promise to spend the rest of my life trying to be the daughter you deserve." I took her hand. "You already are, Angela. Every day you show up, work hard, take responsibility, you already are." We drove home as the stars began to appear in the darkening sky. The car, Robert's beloved Opel that I had also reclaimed, still smelled faintly of him. Some things remain, I thought. Some things endure. When we got home, there was a message on the answering machine. It was Jonathan. "Mrs. Antonia, I have some news about the shelter project Angela mentioned. I've been doing some research, and I think I've found some organizations that would be perfect partners. Call me when you get a chance." Angela looked at me, hope in her eyes. "He's already working on it." "Apparently so." "Mom, this is really going to happen, isn't it? We're really going to do something good with all of this." "Yes, we are. Your father built wealth so that we could live comfortably, but also so that we could make a difference. It's time we honored that." That night, I couldn't sleep. I went to the window and looked out at the quiet street, thinking about everything that had happened. 6 months ago, I was sitting in a doctor's office, receiving a phone call that broke my heart. My daughter had betrayed me, sold my property, abandoned me, but instead of destroying me, it had led to this moment, to healing, to understanding, to a relationship with my daughter that was deeper and more authentic than it had ever been. I thought about Robert and his careful planning, his secret investments, his wisdom in keeping our wealth hidden until the right time. He had known somehow that this would all be necessary, that Angela would need to fall before she could truly rise, that I would need to be strong in ways I never imagined. "You knew, didn't you?" I whispered to the darkness, to Robert's memory. "You knew she would struggle. You knew she would need to learn these lessons. And you left me the tools to teach them to her." I felt rather than heard his response. In the quiet of the night, in the peace of that moment, I felt his love surrounding me, approving of what I had done, proud of the woman our daughter was becoming. The next morning, Angela and I sat down with Jonathan to discuss the shelter project in detail. He had prepared a comprehensive plan, complete with budget projections, partnership opportunities with local organizations, and legal structures for the foundation we would need to create. "I'm proposing we call it the Robert Hartman Foundation for Women's Independence," Jonathan said, "in honor of your late husband." I looked at Angela, who nodded enthusiastically. "Dad would love that," she said. "He always wanted to help people, but he did it quietly, privately. This would be his legacy, public and lasting." "Then it's decided," I said. "The Robert Hartman Foundation it is." Over the next few months, we worked tirelessly to bring the project to life. Angela threw herself into it with a passion I had never seen in her before. She researched best practices for domestic violence shelters, connected with survivors to understand their needs, and even started taking evening classes in social work. "I want to do this right, Mom," she told me one evening. "These women deserve more than just a roof over their heads. They deserve support, resources, a real chance to rebuild." "You sound like your father," she smiled. "Is that a compliment?" "The highest one I can give." 6 months after that fateful phone call in the doctor's office, we held the opening ceremony for the first Robert Hartman Foundation shelter. It was the beach house, renovated and equipped to house up to 6 women and their children at a time. Local organizations had partnered with us to provide counseling, legal aid, job training, and childcare services. The mayor came to cut the ribbon. Local news covered the event. But what mattered most to me was seeing Angela stand up and speak about the foundation's mission, her voice strong and clear, her conviction absolute. "My father," she said to the gathered crowd, "believed that wealth meant nothing if it wasn't used to lift others up. He built a life of financial security for our family, But what he really wanted was for us to understand that security means nothing if we don't share it with those who need it most. This foundation is his dream realized, and I promise to dedicate my life to making sure it succeeds. As I watched her speak, I saw not the selfish woman who had sold my house, but the woman she had become through struggle and redemption. I saw Robert in her gestures, in her words, in her commitment to doing good. After the ceremony, as people mingled and toured the facility, Angela pulled me aside. "Mom, I need to tell you something." "What is it?" "I've been thinking about Eric." My body tensed. "What about him?" I realized something. I don't hate him. I'm actually grateful to him. Grateful? After everything he did? Yes. Because if he hadn't left me, if he hadn't helped me hit rock bottom, I never would have learned these lessons. I never would have discovered who I really am, what I'm capable of. He was the catalyst for my transformation, even if he didn't mean to be. I looked at my daughter with new admiration. This level of wisdom, of perspective, was something many people never achieved in their entire lives. "You've grown so much, Angela. I had a good teacher." She hugged me. "Thank you, Mom. Thank you for not giving up on me. Thank you for letting me fall. Thank you for being there when I was ready to stand up again." That evening, as the sun set over the ocean, Angela and I stood on the deck of the beach house, now a beacon of hope for women in crisis. The Harrisons had been wonderful about the change in plans, and we had helped them find an even better property nearby. Everything had worked out in ways I couldn't have imagined. "Mom," Angela said quietly, "do you think Dad can see this? Do you think he knows what we're doing?" I looked out at the endless expanse of ocean, at the sky painted in brilliant colors, at the house that had been the scene of so much family joy and was now going to be the scene of healing for so many. "I think he knows," I said. "I think he planned it this way all along. He left us the means, but he trusted us to find the purpose. I won't let him down. I won't let you down. You already haven't. Daughter, you already haven't." As we stood there together, I thought about the journey we had been on, from betrayal to reconciliation, from wealth hidden to wealth shared, from a mother and daughter broken apart to a family healed and stronger than ever. I had promised Robert in those final moments before he died that I would take care of our daughter, and I had kept that promise, though not in the way anyone might have expected. I had taken care of her not by giving her everything she wanted, but by teaching her what she needed to learn. Not by saving her from consequences, but by letting her face them and grow through them. The beach house, once sold in betrayal, now stood as a monument to redemption. The wealth, once used selfishly, now served a higher purpose. And my daughter, once lost to greed and poor judgment, had found her way back not just to me but to herself. Angela started volunteering at the shelter every weekend, working directly with the women who stayed there. She heard their stories, offered support, and shared her own experience of hitting rock bottom and finding her way back. She became a beacon of hope for women who thought their situations were hopeless. One Saturday evening, she came home with tears in her eyes. "Mom, I met a woman today. Her name is Sarah. Her husband stole everything from her, took out credit cards in her name, left her with nothing. It was like looking in a mirror." I told her my story, and for the first time, she had hope that things could get better. "You're doing important work, Angela. It doesn't feel like work, it feels like purpose. For the first time in my life, I feel like I'm doing exactly what I'm meant to do." This was the transformation I had hoped for. Not just behavioral change, but a fundamental shift in who she was, what she valued, how she saw the world. As the first anniversary of Robert's death approached, Angela and I planned a small memorial at the beach house. We invited close friends, the Harrisons, some of the women from the shelter, and Jonathan. Angela prepared a speech on the day of the memorial. As we gathered on the deck overlooking the ocean, she stood to speak. "A year ago," she began, "I thought I had lost everything. My marriage had ended. I had no money, no home, no prospects. But what I didn't realize was that I hadn't lost everything. I still had my mother, though I had treated her terribly. I still had my father's wisdom, though I had ignored it. I still had the capacity to change, though I had never exercised it." She paused, looking at me. "My father left us more than money. He left us a blueprint for how to live. He showed us that real security doesn't come from what we have, but from who we are and how we treat others. He taught us that wealth is a tool, not a goal. And he trusted that even when we strayed from these principles, we would eventually find our way back. There wasn't a dry eye on that deck. So today, I want to thank my father for his wisdom, his patience, and his faith in us. And I want to thank my mother for being strong enough to let me fall and loving enough to help me rise. This foundation, this shelter, this new life I'm building, it's all because of them. After the ceremony, as people were leaving, Jonathan pulled me aside. "Mrs. Antonia, I have to say, when you first came to my office with Robert's documents, I wasn't sure what you were planning, but this," he gestured to the shelter, to Angela talking animatedly with the residents, to the whole scene of healing and hope. "This is extraordinary. It's what Robert wanted all along." He was a wise man. Yes, he was. And he knew that sometimes the greatest gift we can give our children isn't comfort, but the opportunity to find their own strength. As the sun set on that anniversary day, Angela and I took a walk along the beach, the same beach where she had played as a child, where Robert had taught her to swim, where our family had created countless memories. "Mom, I have something to tell you," she said as we walked. "What is it?" "I've been accepted into a master's program in social work. It's a 2-year program, and I'll have to balance it with work. But I want to do it. I want to be able to help these women on a professional level, not just as a volunteer." "Angela, that's wonderful. I couldn't have done it without you. The discipline I learned from working and saving, the purpose I found through the foundation, it all came from the lessons you taught me." I stopped walking and turned to face her. "I didn't teach you anything you didn't already know. Deep down, I just helped you remember who you really are." She hugged me then, there on the beach where so much of our family's story had unfolded. "I love you, Mom. I don't think I've said that enough. I love you too, daughter, and I'm so proud of who you've become." As we walked back to the house, I thought about the envelope Robert had left me, the secrets it contained, the plan it set in motion. He had known, somehow, that Angela would need these lessons, that I would need to be strong, that everything would unfold exactly as it had. The beach house lights were on, welcoming us home. Inside, women who had lost everything were finding hope, and my daughter, who had once thrown everything away, had found her calling in helping them. This was Robert's legacy. Not just the money, not just the properties, but the transformation they made possible. The journey from betrayal to redemption, from selfishness to service, from loss to love. That night, I opened Robert's letter one more time and read the final paragraph I had read many times before. "Antonia, if you're reading this, I'm gone. But I'm not really gone. I'm in every lesson you teach our daughter, in every life you touch with this wealth, in every moment of love and wisdom you share. Use what I've left you, not just to live, but to make a difference. That's all I ever wanted. I love you always, Robert." I folded the letter carefully and placed it back in the envelope. Tomorrow, I would give it to Angela. She was ready now to understand its full meaning, to appreciate the wisdom and love it contained. As I turned off the light and prepared for bed, I felt a deep sense of peace. The journey had been painful, the lessons hard, but we had emerged stronger, wiser, more connected than ever before. My daughter had called me one day and told me she had sold my house and my car. She had thrown me away like I was nothing. But that moment of betrayal had become the catalyst for the greatest transformation of both our lives. And in the end, that's what Robert had known all along, that sometimes we have to lose everything to find what really matters. That sometimes the greatest act of love is allowing someone to face the consequences of their actions. That sometimes the road to redemption begins with hitting rock bottom. I closed my eyes and whispered into the darkness, "We did it, Robert. Our daughter is home." And somewhere, I knew he was smiling.